After Saturday's heartbreaking loss to our arch rival, we have multiple Duke updates on rankings, ratings, bracketology, all that good stuff that comes with college basketball, and we got to break it all down. What's up, guys? I'm Matt Long. Welcome to Duke Basketball 365. If you're a Duke Blue Devils basketball fan, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out a ton, and only 10% of viewers are subscribed to the channel. But let's jump right into what we got for today. Starting off with at 1 p.m. this afternoon, the new AP poll dropped with Duke, despite the loss, not moving anywhere. We are standing strong, remaining in that 4th overall slot behind undefeated Arizona, who takes on Kansas tonight at 9 p.m. That should be a fantastic game. Behind Michigan, who there has been some movement with Michigan, and then we're still behind the UConn Huskies, despite them also taking a loss this weekend. So, a lot of losses in the top 5, but not a lot of movement. Let's get on to some of our advanced analytics that will help dictate and determine which teams we should be taking in March Madness and what's going to help the bracket makers make their bracket, which is the KenPom rankings, which is pretty much advanced analytics that looks at if every game was played something like 1,000 times, what would the outcomes look like, and how good are these teams actually based on advanced analytics. We, again, no movement. We're still in the 3 spot despite the loss, although this time there are some different teams surrounding us. Illinois is still very close to us. Remember Illinois because they are going to be important when we get to the bracketology portion of this video. But we can see the changes from the AP poll versus the KenPom is Michigan is now ahead of Arizona, and UConn, instead of being number 3 ahead of us, they have dropped down to 8. Illinois 1 spot behind us, and we move up from 4 to 3. These rankings are more accurate than the AP polls are, but at the end of the day, they really are both rankings where the analytics are done on spreadsheets. The basketball games are played on a basketball court, so it doesn't matter as much, although these KenPom rankings are more accurate with how good the teams are because there's a little bit of brand bias that comes into the voting for AP polls. Remember, AP polls is unbiased voters, but still human voters in a room, whereas the KenPom ratings are done by just numbers, and that's it. But our rating is 35.11 this season, which is very, very high. Last season, we had one of, if not the best KenPom rating of all time with 39 point something. So we can see Michigan is creeping up that high, Arizona at 37. We're not that far behind that at 35. And what is extremely impressive about us, which you can only say about 4 of the top 5 teams, or really 4 teams in the entire country, is both our offensive rating and defensive rating is in the top 10. We can see Michigan 5th in offensive rating, 1 in defensive rating. That's really scary. That looks like how we looked last year with both of those ratings in the top 10. But Duke, we have a offensive rating of 8, defensive rating of 3. A little bit interesting how the top 3 overall KenPom rated teams, they're actually ranked the exact same way if we look at pure defensive rating, where Michigan overall ranked 1, then their defensive rating 1 as well. Arizona, number 2 defensive rating, number 2 overall rating. Duke, number 3 defensive rating, and number 3 overall as a team. So we can see some of these top 10 schools are really good at one or the other thing. Like if you look at Michigan State, who we are going to talk about more when we get to the bracketology portion of this video, but their defensive rating is 4, but their offensive rating is 42. And those are the teams that don't go as far in March Madness. You have to be a balanced team. And that's what we have out of these top 3 in Michigan, Arizona, and Duke. So those are 3 fantastic teams, even despite that loss that we suffered yesterday. But like I said, we also have some updates to the bracketology. According to ESPN's lead bracketologist, Joe Lunardi, we are still projected to receive a 1 seed, be in the East Division, of course, which would put us this year in Washington, D.C. Right now, our round 1 matchup is expected to be LIU. I believe they are in the NEC still. I live on Long Island. I actually live about 20 minutes away from Long Island University. And I can say without a doubt that would be a victory for us. But looking at how our bracket is, shaping up right now. A little bit interesting that right now they actually have us projected to face the winner of Villanova, who's having a down year, and actually our Duke friend in the head coach at UCF is Johnny Dawkins. So we could see him in the second round, which would be really, really cool. But what we really want to take a closer look at is who are the other top teams that are projected to be in our region. And we can see on the screen here, it is Michigan State, and Michigan State being the 4 seed in the region that we get a 1 seed. It's a bit of a double-edged sword because there's a good reason to have Michigan State in your region, and there's a bad reason. The bad reason is, of course, they have Tom Izzo, and for any one game, they are maybe the most dangerous team in the entire tournament. Maybe not as good as, not as scary as Michigan or Arizona, but anyone outside of that, Michigan State can beat absolutely anyone. The problem with Michigan State is their offense is not consistent enough. As we talked about earlier, their offensive rating is 42nd best in the nation, which tells us that they are not going to be having a long run in March Madness. So this means that they are at a higher probability of being upset in the earlier rounds where we would not see them in the Elite 8 where we are currently projected to see them, which is a good thing. The problem is if they aren't upset, then you have an Elite 8 matchup that you are very afraid of. So that is the double-edged sword of having Michigan State in the bracket. You hope you don't see them, although there is a higher probability than some of the other 4 seeds that you wouldn't even have to end up seeing Michigan State. So very dangerous for any one given game, but they're not a threat. History tells us, at least, that they're not a threat to actually win the entire bracket. But if you are a 1 seed, the number one thing that you're looking at is who is the 2 seed in our region, who is on paper, our number 1 competition to move on out of the region to go to the Final Four. And right now, it's not in the graphic, but Illinois is who Joe Lunardi has projected as our 2 seed. And if you remember, looking at that KenPom, Illinois, right now, they should be a 1 seed. So having Illinois as a 2 seed is not something that we want to see. This tells us that Lunardi has Duke as either the 4th best 1 seed or one of the weaker 2 1 seeds. So either 3 or 4, and then he has Illinois as the 5th or 6th overall seed, which would be one of the better 2 seeds. We don't want to see Illinois. The analytics tell us that they should be a 1 seed, and that is essentially a second 1 seed in our region. That's a bad draw. We don't like that. We would rather see whoever the other schools would be, whether that would be, let's go back to our, maybe Michigan State goes higher. And if Michigan State is our 2 seed, that's something I love. If I know Florida, a lot of the schools here, the reason why I'm struggling to pull teams right off the top of my head right now is because a lot of the schools that are currently ranked highly in KenPom started the year off with a bunch of losses, like Florida, and they're highly ranked KenPom wise, but in real life, it doesn't feel like they're actually going to be, they're not being Brackettology projected to be that high. So we're hoping that we get a weaker matchup than Illinois as our 2 seed. That's really what the core of the thing of what I'm trying to say here is. But this is still just projections, as much fun as it is to take a look at. What is real is we have Pittsburgh tomorrow night. Got to make sure we are able to relock in after losing to UNC. We are going to be seeing UNC at the end of the year. And one last thing, speaking of Washington, D.C., we've got a big-time matchup against Michigan in Washington, D.C. in 2 weeks, February 21st. That should be an absolutely amazing game. But that's what I got for this video. If you stuck around this long, I appreciate you taking the time to watch the video all the way through. Please hit that like button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and go Duke.